One factor I find particularly relevant to the current situation is the whole concept of uncertainty. There is a lot of uncertainty about we don't know when the current lockdown is going to end, we don't know what that's going to look like, we also don't know what the post-COVID-19 world is going to look like. Now, we know from traditional research in psychology and psychiatry that a prolonged period of exposure to uncertainty can be linked to symptoms of learned helplessness. Now, we know that learned helplessness, in turn, is associated with impaired cognition. It has a negative impact upon motivation, and it can have a negative impact upon mood. I have been asked about the impact the changes in our routines as a result of the lockdown is having upon our mental health. I think there's really three areas to look at. First of all, it's the case that the changes in our routines is really associated with another element of unpredictability that has been introduced in our lives. Unpredictability and uncertainty, as we've previously established, are really bad news for mental health. Second, it's the case that people with certain conditions, such as autism spectrum disorders, are particularly sensitive to any changes in their routines. And therefore, for individuals that have such pre-existing mental health conditions, the effects of the lockdown can be extremely distressing and stressful. Third, it's the case that as part of the change in our routines, many of us are now working from home. For people who are usually not in the habit of working from home, this makes it particularly difficult to establish the clear boundaries between professional life and private life, and therefore this may mean that people are not able to switch off from work as easily as they would have ordinarily been able to do so, which again may be associated with negative impacts upon one's mental health. First, I would recommend that we all make efforts to maintain good social contacts, and perhaps this is a good opportunity to re-establish contacts with old friends and acquaintances. Second, I would always recommend the importance of maintaining a regular exercise regime. It is well established that exercise can have a beneficial impact upon one's mental health. Third, despite the fact that most of us are now at home, I think it's really important that we have a strict routine. That introduces an element of predictability, but it also allows to make a clear demarcation between weekdays and weekends and work time and private time. Fourth, it is my opinion that perhaps we can offset some of those feelings of learned helplessness by exploiting some of the opportunities the lockdown offers us. Perhaps this is a really good opportunity to pick up some of those interests that we always wanted to do but never had the time for. For those, I would strongly recommend that it's so important that you maintain regular contact with your doctor or clinical teams, and there are a lot of services out there offering remote assessments and remote treatments. It's therefore really important not to stall or delay your treatment because of the current circumstances. Equally, for people who feel that their mental health is deteriorating during the lockdown, I do think it's important, as always, to seek help as quick as possible and to engage in treatment as early as possible.